Carly Shimkus. Ohio Senator J.D. Vance traveling to the town to actually see it for himself. And he posted this video on Twitter showing just how contaminated that water in one creek appears to be. And you can see it on your screen right there. Residents say officials under Secretary Buttigieg and President Biden are completely ignoring them.
I was told to evacuate my home. They told me they were going to do an air quality test. Never got a call back. 3 times, 3 different agents from that number said they were coming to do an air quality test. I don't think Norfolk is owning up to what happened. Probably about 10 minutes after the evacuation was lifted, the first train went through. And so it was just kind of a slap in the face. We felt that all they were worried about was getting the trains running.
Brooke has the latest on this disaster. Brooke.
Hey guys, that's right. Furious East Palestine officials and members of the community are still searching for answers from the Biden administration 2 weeks after this toxic train derailment. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine is requesting emergency help on the ground from the CDC after President Biden rejected their request for disaster assistance. DeWine now requesting for the CDC to, quote, immediately send to the crash site.
What does Biden call that then?
Including doctors and professionals who can evaluate and counsel members of the community who have had questions or are experiencing symptoms. It comes as more residents complain of symptoms and reactions from the toxic chemicals spreading through the air and the water.
This is what your president thinks of the flyover states.
This video from a creek in the community.
Hey guys, so I'm here at Leslie Run, and there are dead worms and dead fish all throughout this water. Something I just discovered is that if you scrape the creek bed, it's like chemical is coming out of the ground.
That's right. Chemicals are actually coming up from the ground in a creek just miles from people's homes in East Palestine. And as residents plead for help, White House officials are putting all the blame on the railway company. Listen.
We're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to try and figure out.
But you can't sing FEMA
We're going to
because it's not a traditional. No, it's not a hurricane or a tornado, you ding dong.
We're going to hold Norfolk Southern accountable, and I can promise you that.
I can't get ahead of an investigation that is active and ongoing, but Norfolk Southern will have to answer to EPA for the environmental side.
Y'all send him some
The
water.
residents say the problem is out of the railway's hands and are calling on the Biden administration to step up and send aid to their town. Emergency teams are working overtime in an effort to stop chemicals from washing into waterways as rain is expected to fall today. Meantime, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is facing new calls to resign after he minimizes the tragedy these Ohioans are facing.
While this horrible situation has gotten a particularly high amount of attention, there are roughly 1,000 cases a year of a train
Go visit them. There's not 100,000 things of a train have been exploded.
In surrounding cities like Pittsburgh, Youngstown, and Newcastle are
By
sounding the
y'all.
alarm on their own water supply, worried that the toxins are spreading far wider than they know. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro says his state is conducting its own independent water sampling, citing fears that officials aren't aware of just how many people have been affected. Ashley, Todd.
It is frightening, Brooke. Thank you. With that, let us bring in Grant McKay. He's an East Palestine resident and attorney who organized the town hall earlier this week. So much to get to with you, sir. Let's begin with that Pete Buttigieg soundbite that you just heard. When you hear Buttigieg say he can't believe the amount of attention that this incident is getting, yet you heard residents from your very town say, we're being ignored. We're trying to get information. We're trying to get resources. We're trying to get ideas as to what to do, and nobody's contacting us back. What do you make of that?
Well, Todd, first I want to set the record straight. I actually grew up and I'm originally from East Palestine. I'm living in the Cleveland area now. You know, I had to come up here to get a job. Big surprise. But hearing the response of what we're seeing, it's not necessarily outside the realm of possibility here. The people of East Palestine are downtrodden. They feel abandoned. They feel disrespected. At the town hall meeting that was put on by the city this week, there was no representatives from Norfolk Southern. There wasn't anybody from the federal government there representing what needed to happen. There is a problem. This is a huge problem. People are having issues physically across the board, and they're afraid that they're not going to be heard. If you look at the way things went down, within days, Norfolk Southern threw down slag, put rails over the accident scene, and it was back to business. They didn't remediate the soil, and there's thousands and thousands of gallons of toxic material that were there. And then talking about the governmental issues, there was no EPA standards put out from the federal EPA or the Ohio EPA regarding how to deal with toxicity in somebody's household, how to clean it. You know where it did come from? Pennsylvania. Right. And somebody from Pennsylvania went and posted on a Facebook group that individuals have been able to utilize.
It makes no sense. It's horrific what's happening. I want to focus on the FEMA part of this. If you felt abandoned before, or the people there in East Palestine felt abandoned before, what's the reaction when the Biden administration's FEMA department basically says, this doesn't qualify?
Well, you know, I invite them to come down and take a swim in our creek. Have a glass of water, you'll probably do great. This is beyond words. You're talking about a poor section in a poor town in an economically depressed area in general in Ohio. This is a 1-2 punch in putting people down. I have clients that have reached out to me, and they're actually, this is the saddest thing to say, they're actually going and getting evaluations done by doctors, including blood work, so they get a baseline that they have physically. So when they go and get sick from being forced back in their houses, they can point out that it's due to Norfolk Southern.
Think about that. They're basically anticipating the effects 10, 15 years down the road.
Aaron Brockovich said to do
blood
that.
work. That's a sad state of affairs as to where we are. Let's go through some of the specifics here, and I want to get your thoughts because you're living it right now. Has there been any effort to clean people's homes?
No.
People are doing it on their own individualized level. And it depends on where they're at, right? I mean, some people can't afford to go and have outside contractors come in and pay for it. I know that I've had people tell me that they're receiving quotes of $10,000 to $30,000 for toxic clean. And when you go in and there's the residue everywhere, how can you feel safe, right? You walk in and you get hit with the fumes as soon as you come in. Some people puke that I've talked to. There's others that have had mind-numbing headaches. I mean, just overcoming in a short period of time.
Okay.
And then they have to retreat.
So let me follow up to that. Are some people being forced back into their homes prematurely because, quite frankly, Grant, they can't afford the $10,000 to $30,000 to clean it up?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding me? This is where it stems from. This comes through the contempt that came from the town hall meeting put on by the city. You know, this is where it's coming from. People are being stepped on, and this is the problem. We need the state to come in and help. We need the federal government to come in and help. And if I can tell you straight up, I was in Cleveland and it wasn't really being covered. And some friends called me in real time and said, "Grant, what do we do?" And I said, "I don't know, but we're going to figure this out and try and take care of you." And it's just gut-wrenching to know that they've been ignored in general.
Do you have any sense as to how long these people will be out of pocket for the expenses that they have incurred so far?
You know, the reality is this. I mean, some people are looking at this and looking at it could be like Chernobyl. I mean, at least the land right around where it's at. There's a value there. There's a land value that's impacted. You have toxicity in the land, the water potentially, let alone the psychological damage. I mean, again, this is a town that, you know, to hear a train go down now where it's actually compliant with the speed is definitely interesting. I can tell you that I don't believe Norfolk Southern was following the safety protocols nor the regulations the way they needed to, but I'm sure that will all come out in the wash, no pun intended.
Sure. Let's get to Norfolk Southern for a second, because I look at this as adding insult to injury. What's the reaction to the folks there, from the folks there, to Norfolk Southern? One, obviously causing this incident, and then refusing to send a rep to town hall by basically accusing the people of East Palestine of being a, let's call it a premature violent mob. To me, that was insult to injury. What are the people saying to that?
Well, what I can tell you is that, you know, my family's been around since literally, I believe, just prior to the revolution. Not in East Palestine, but close by. We migrated up. Our town is not a town of rebel rousers. We're not ones of violence and things like that. But we are ones that take care of people and represent others. And the reality is, Norfolk Southern, $55.5 billion company, checking the box, moving along, getting the freight going, and not caring at all about these people, putting them back in their house. Where are they at? They should be the ones paying these bills for the toxicity, the cleaning. They should have had this plan out. And where's the federal government, right? I mean, you'd think they'd have some type of playbook put down that they could help the residents, and they feel the frustration, Todd, definitely.
Understood. What is the reaction when residents hear so-called experts say, oh, the air is clean, the water is clean, the land is clean? Do people living through this nightmare just get the overall sense that leaders on every single level just don't know what the heck they're doing?
I think that's part of it, but I think they feel that this goes down to big business, and big business Norfolk Southern has bought and sold everybody. I mean, you're talking about a company that's been around for nearly 180 years, organizing and running a monopoly of which they made a lot of money, and they've been doing nothing but buying politicians and political friends forever. Maybe that's the result of what we're looking at. God, I hope not. Or maybe it's just straight ignorance and people not being taken care of. But they feel it. These people are just ignored and abandoned and being forced to put back in. To go in that situation in that house where they have to put their babies with these toxic fumes around.
I mean, when you look at these images we're seeing on the screen right now, and then you hear somebody like Mayor Pete, who's done an absolutely horrific job up till this point before this disaster, saying, I can't believe this is getting all this attention. Literally, people are going to have health effects for years to come. This is an area that is desperate for assistance. You have to wonder if this happened in New York, D.C., or San Francisco, the response would be completely different, and yet people in your area are begging for help. Grant McKay, thanks so much for your help on this. Keep up the good work, and let's get attention, as much attention as possible, to this horrific incident, and let's get it solved, especially.